not just acknowledging that the government has been doing this for several years, but even defending the program. What's more serious, the fact that the government is doing this or the fact that now we know about it?
Well, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think, on the one hand, the leak is quite serious. We can't create norms where it's okay to take classified information, whether it be a program, whether it be a specific piece of intelligence, and leak it to the press. It's, problematic in terms of intelligence collection overseas and even in terms of our own national security. Having said that, now that the information is out, the bottom line is that some of it is quite concerning. I think the president at his press conference clarified a few key pieces of information, but I don't really think we have a lot of, specific details about exactly what was being probed on the servers of these companies, and we have flat-out denials from the companies themselves. So I think there's a lot that's going to need to be looked into by Congress over the upcoming weeks and months.
How exactly is this kind of data, the data that they are gathering, how is it really used to counter terrorism?
Well, there's probably a number of ways. Having been an intelligence analyst myself, I can tell you information like this is included in reports that go to the president. I saw in the press today, they said, over 1,000 pieces of information over the course of the last year came from PRISM and were in the presidential daily brief, which is the briefing the president gets every day with important key developments. So they were probably using this on a regular basis to take the metadata, or so they say, the metadata from these records, and put them into the brief to inform counterterrorism operations overseas. And I'm sure it did help, counterterrorism operations to be effective, but just because something's effective doesn't necessarily mean that it crosses the line in terms of either civil liberties or, U.S. citizens' privacy. So, again, there's always a delicate balance that needs to be reached.
The president is literally leaving Silicon Valley right now to go down to Southern California for his meeting with the Chinese president. Does this strain the relationship between Washington and Silicon Valley?
Absolutely. I think on the one hand, this is not the story. Obviously, Obama wanted to go into, California, the U.S.-China summit on. It creates sort of a cloud on the already existing cyber hacking cloud that existed despite the fact that the conference itself might be taking place on the sunny lands of the state. I think that there are reasons to be optimistic about the summit, but this is certainly not the news story Obama wanted going into the weekend.
Now, the other experts I've interviewed this week have been very pessimistic about this summit, saying that the most we can hope for is that the relationship doesn't get worse. Why are you more optimistic? We know President Xi is potentially more open to this kind of engagement. We know they're going to have some very valuable one-on-one time, but why do you think that something more positive can come from this meeting, specifically on the cybersecurity issue?
Yes, I'm actually quite optimistic about these types of summits. We've seen historically these types of summits are really useful. We're not going to come out of the summit with a piece of cybersecurity legislation, and we're not going to come out of the summit with the Chinese throwing up their hands and, admitting to every single act of cyber hacking that's taking place or economic espionage that's taken place over the past few months. But these types of summits help the presidents establish personal credibility with one another, trust, and improve the relations over time. We've seen this historically. We've seen this through meetings, during the Cold War, and we've seen this on lots of different occasions where leaders get together in informal environments, and it helps establish a personal relationship. There's a reason both in, professional work environment settings that people go out of the office and try to socialize and interact with one another, and it's because these help establish ties of trust and credibility that help in terms of the work that needs to be done.